So do you mind just starting off kind of like we did last time for all of you guys watching? This is take two. Very thankful for you to do take two with me right now. Would you mind just starting off giving a brief history of who you are, your job, and then maybe go into your musical background after that?
Yeah. So my name is Christopher Storm Little. I work at Shady Creek Outdoor School. I'm better known as Yeti or Sweaty Yeti. So we are an outdoor science camp that serves over 5,000 kids all over Northern California and beyond. And it's an amazing program that does feature music, which is awesome for me because I love that. I play a lot of instruments now, but primarily I am a drummer. I've been playing the drums since I was about 14 years old was when I got my first sticks, my first kit, and I've been playing drums ever since. It's been a wild ride, and I think I got to talk about that today, so I'm stoked about that.
Yeah.
That's right.
So being a drummer, what bands were you a part of growing up, or like what was some of your musical experience?
All right, so it all started in church. When I was thinking about it, actually, like my first take on my first introduction to music that I would say was influential is video game music. It's amazing that video games have such good funky stuff in it. So anyways, I just gotta say that's really where I think the wheels started going, playing Toe Jam and Earl. But it was church, and at church there's so much going on, and I was part of a really big church. But in youth group, and also in children's church, but then in the main church there was this giant band. There was full-on choir. The drummer had this gargantuan kit with a giant, shield around him. It definitely piqued my interest, and the attention those people received, the role that they had. They're instant heroes. Like these people are the people playing the music they're so cool. And so that's really started making the passion start turning. I was 14 years old, my first drum kit. My twin brother, he played the trombone, but he quickly switched over to bass guitar.
Oh, I never knew that about him.
Yeah, I know. There's no good rock band that, the nucleus is drums and trombone. So, it was important for him to make that switch. We were in some bands in our church, with other kids. We were in a band called Naked Lettuce, which didn't get a good welcome. Later on, we were raw rockers at worship. But I would say that while playing in church, you're playing songs that are written and that you can hear maybe on a CD or a tape. Getting, dating myself here. But my twin brother and I, Jason or Sasquatch, we realized that it was original music that was going to be something that was going to get your name out there. And so 16 years old, maybe it was even 15, my twin brother and I we're getting ready, playing music. And, we'd done some talent shows, and all of a sudden the big opportunity came to play a cafe, a real cafe in downtown Roseville that bands are playing. They're making flyers for this. And I remember as we're going to, band practice, we were in an old school punk band called the Blue Jays. We had committed that we were going to cover some Ramones. We were going to cover a Misfit song, but we needed to have original music. And it didn't need to be the greatest music, but it needed to be our music. And that band amazingly got a great reception. And, being 16, 17 years old and playing shows in downtown Sacramento, getting bands that are on labels contacting you and saying, hey, we want you to open for us for this leg of our tour. That was revolutionary. And then, recording live albums off a Tascam 4-track recorder, and then converting tape to CD at your buddy Phil's house. There's so many things that, and as a kid, playing a show with a flyer, going to the local record store and canvassing, and recording live, raw recordings on tape. This was so awesome. And all of a sudden the stars started going in the eye of, I want to be a rock star. My twin brother, played the bass, but he also was doing all of the songwriting on guitar. So it was natural for him to make that switch over. And a lot of people, I even play the guitar now. You can write songs, you can write lyrics, you can do so much because you can express yourself, as a singer-songwriter. Being a drummer, we make a lot of noise. We also, can be told that we're too loud a lot too, which is a whole nother story. My twin brother and I decided the Blue Jays was great, but we wanted to evolve our sound. We ran my manager at Blockbuster Video. His brother played bass. His other brother played keyboard. Jason was writing songs on guitar. I'm drummer. So we started this band, and this band was predominantly run by the lead singer. And I realized then that lead singer is I, because we didn't get along in the Blue Jays either. The lead singer in this group and also future groups, it's always interesting. You don't know what you're going to get with a lead singer. This lead singer, he was really into alternative music. He had a Christian message he wanted to share, which is fine by me. And I call us Diet Creed or Creed Light. Our band was every word, but thank God there's not any YouTube videos that exist of this. We even tried to get some screamo in it, and I was the one screaming on drums, which I'm very thankful. There may be one video of this that exists, and hopefully that was destroyed. But that was a great push, because what I learned in that band, and I know I shared this with you in our first take at this, was in that band, it was time to record an album that was more than a crude live recording. And it was more than just somebody pressing play on a tape recorder, little mini one at a show. And so our lead singer was so excited and so behind the band that we went into a studio. And I remember we booked a full week, recording 7 songs. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't understand what it takes to mix, to mic, the whole 9 yards. By the time we get there, we get all mic'd up and tuned up, and the engineers, and they were ready to go engineers in Sacramento. They said, okay, we're going to record the first track. We gave them the track title, and they said, what's the BPM? And all 5 of us in the band turned to them and said, BPM, what's your beat per minute? What could we put for the metronome? We're going to put you on the grid. We had never done that before. And it rested on the shoulders of me. And I can also say that the bass guitar, no one could play to a click track. But it was my fault because I'm the drummer. They played to me. And, we picked 110, 115 BPM. We got it going, and I failed miserably for hours to even capture. I turned my intro part just pretty much into quarter note on the hi-hat and the bass drum and still couldn't do it. And at the end of the day, the engineer said, okay, you have 2 options. Option number 1 is you save the studio time for later. Your drummer learns how to play to a click track, or you get a new drummer. You can hire one of the drummers that works with us if you want. Or you could say, no metronome, you record your album, but it will not sound professional. It will not be produced. It will not be the fullest to what it could be, because we were a pop band. We weren't jazz. We weren't trying to be grunge. We were pop.
Yeah.
We did the latter. We decided to record with the drummer. I obviously wanted to record an album. And you can hear on the album, you can hear the tempo changes. You can hear how the bass is not locked in with the drums. You can hear all the nuances that we would have, if we would have been more practiced, more rehearsed, but also more in sync with that metronome, it would have been the issue. That band dissolved for a whole bunch of reasons. And then comes the turnout. My twin brother and I were into emo music. Emo music in its purest form is, it's about girls usually, or about relationships. And, we had song titles like I Died in Your Photograph and Colors Deceive Pale Hearts. I wrote the titles. I didn't write the lyrics. That was the lead singer. We got a great lead singer, actually probably my favorite lead singer I've ever worked with. And even him and I didn't get along that often, but he fit the music the right way. He was marketable. He wanted the same things my twin brother and I wanted. And that's the thing about bands is it's a collaborative effort. We're in a day and age, which I can talk about later, where it's so easy to play music by yourself. And why there's so many great benefits to that gelling of, okay, we got a bass player who sings, who's going to bring that influence maybe of like the Police and Sting, but he has that high-pitched voice like a Newfound Glory or a Dashboard Confessional. So he brought that pop punk element into my twin brother and I, what we were cooking up with, what we were vibing emo music. No repeating verses, drums super syncopated with the drum, with the guitar, a lot of build up, you know, songs that went off to infinity, all those things. And so the turnout happened, and that band, you know, we got signed before our first show. We get a tour the West Coast and part of the middle parts of the United States multiple times. It was so much fun. It was a great bonding experience. But again, that learning experience. Okay, touring is hard. Touring means you are going to have to get yourself out of a comfort zone unless you're really sold out to it. Do you like sleeping on floors in motels, which kind of can be gross? When I was that age, I didn't care. I'm 21 years old. Like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Bring on the floor. You know, how can you eat? You know, and sometimes, you know, maybe you do have a budget. Sometimes you don't have that budget. And, you know, you're going off bulk food at Winco. You know, and you're stacking that bag so you're munching it up. You know, people offer you cold spaghetti at the venue, and you're like, oh my God, cold spaghetti. You know, and it's just amazing how, you know, it's something that you didn't expect when you say, I want to be on tour, I want to be a rock star. Be on the radio is really fun. It was really cool. But then things like going to the studio with a sign band. Our engineer was amazing. I lay down the drums to no click, and he would put me on the grid. He would actually take the patience and time to say, all right, and take me and paste me on the grid. And where I didn't match up, he would cycle through other parts that would. And I still listen to that recording today and think to myself, this guy is a wizard at what he did, transforming my craziness of drums and keeping me pretty much in complete time. But then after the first couple of songs we recorded for our EP, and he knew we were getting signed, he told me I needed to play to a click, like no excuse. And I remember, you know, listening to bands on the click and saying, okay, here's what they're doing, buying a whole bunch of different metronomes that would try to work with me. And by the time we went in to finish that EP, we recorded our last songs to a click. I remember, number one, my band, we were getting sandwiches afterwards, and they're give me these like high fives and like pats on the shoulder, like I just won a baseball game or something, or I just won the championship. And I remember, like, you know, our lead singer Eric and my twin brother look at me like, hey, we can be a real band now. Now that we got this, we can do so much more in pop music. And they're right. It was huge. And so I feel proud because every other album that I put out in a real studio sense has been to a grid. When guitarists write songs and say, like my twin, or for you, Mark, you know, the material that you're writing, I'm always going to want it not only on a grid, but I want that metronome in my ear. It also pays off because if you can practice that way and record that way, you don't have to always perform that way. Or you don't, you know, it becomes that eternal metronome inside of you. You play a game as you're playing the drums. Like, I wonder what BPM I am. I think I'm at 89 BPM. All of a sudden, you turn on the click and it picks it up, and you can hear that you're 88. Oh man, I almost had it.
Wow.
You know, like, I love knowing when I hear songs on the radio, not only can I tell you the time signature, not only can I tell you, like, predict, like, this is going to happen here.
Even Tool?
Not Tool. That's why Tool's so good. And also why you can't always listen to Tool, because you got to be in the mode to be like, okay, am I being fed? Am I being challenged? Because I'm not just going to turn my brain off listening to Tool, because I'm always going to hear something else, you know. But, you know, my kids listening to, you know, like, you know, some Kelly Clarkson, pretty simple. Beyonce, a little bit more diverse. I got to, you know, try, you know, pay attention, make sure I hear where the cut rhythms hit and all that. Getting off topic, but back on to being a band. When the turnout broke up, my twin brother and I, the thing that changed my life, and I would say like top 5 things that shaped my drum career, is the people I've been talked to about drums, people who I've actually stepped by and got to see how they play, but talk to you about how their mind works. And I'll get into, I believe my 4 pillars of music, but when I was in Washington on tour, hearing the Beatles for the first time, and I've shared it with you, it was Taxman. That bass line that jumped out, and it's, oh my God, that's real pop music. I never heard it. My mom was the minister. You know, hearing Fleetwood Mac, hearing bands, Led Zeppelin freaked me out. But I love them. I'm inspired by him. Dire Straits, hearing Mark Knopfler, the way he played the guitar was, like, wow. Hearing Santana play, he's still my favorite guitar player because what he does with that guitar is an actual voice. It's a universal voice of the galaxy. I mean, that's it right there. Then funk music. My twin brother and I were lucky enough, the movie store we worked in, that there was a client who came in to rent movies, but he was always gone on tour. He was an older man. And it turns out his name was Jerry Martini. And Jerry Martini was one of the founding members of Sly and the Family Stone. He's a saxophonist. And he took my brother and I under his wings and introduced us to catalog like Queen. He introduced us to funk like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Sly, Funkadelic Parliament, James Brown. But then he introduced us to Prince because he also was the saxophonist of Prince. And being taken under the wing, and I didn't talk about this in my first one with you, being taken under the wing of someone who, when he talks to you, says, take me serious, go in your movie catalog, get the Woodstock documentary, the actual Woodstock documentary, turn it on, and you'll see me during this performance with Sly. And there is Jerry Martini there playing next to Cynthia Robinson on trumpet, Greg Errico on drums right behind. And there it is. He's there. He's there. And so it's been really great to be influenced. It's really shaped because my twin brother and I said this again last time, there's an album by Miles Davis titled Bitches Brew. And that's like the changing of acoustic jazz and electric jazz and how they collide together in jazz fusion. And there's so many bands that spawned off of what happened in those sessions. So that got my twin brother and I on this huge journey of instrumental funky jazz. And that's where we are today. We've released albums under the title The Little Twins, and we're on iTunes, Spotify. It's rock, funk, jazz, no lead singer, just the two of us having fun, having that conversation. We've, got to do, we're in a smoking Grateful Dead cover band with yours truly on bass, but, trying to capture that psychedelia of the late 60s Dead and a whole array of music that was happening. That's Redhead Dead. We have Gatito, which is with our celloist, Bobcat, Joshua Stacy. And that's like, cinematic funk from a different planet. I'm trying to talk to the aliens when we're playing with that, and then also my wife plays bass with us, in the little family band. My sons play bass and drums, I have a band with them. And so it's so great because the biggest fan of my music is me. I love it. And, and I also have big dreams still, but I'm also the happiest human that I know. So it's all good.
I love it. So you've kind of talked about how you've gone through a little bit of lows and highs in your career, it sounds like, as far as, not being able to play to a click track and how that's influenced and made you a better drummer. Have there been other experiences that maybe made you felt like you were on the top of the cliff, the top of the mountain, or maybe like lows of the lows?
Yeah. And then I'll tell you the trick is sustaining a nice steady climb, even through plateaus. One thing about the lowest part, like moments of my drum career, it takes place on the Turnout's first tour. We're playing at a venue in San Jose. And on that tour, it was our band's turn to go first because we had just headlined the gig the night before. It was a rotating headline. So same amount of time playing, which was important. So the three bands, after the first local band went on, we go on. And they had this giant drum riser. And I am the most anti-riser person on the world. Like, I prefer to play drums, not center stage, but stage left is my preferred spot to be. Put the rest of the band anywhere they want. People can be on the riser if they choose to. I like being on front of the stage left, facing the rest of the band. Here's why. At the show, as we're getting ready to play, this riser, it's like 5 feet off the ground. It's a big deal riser. And it has like this like sleek black like curtain going over it. And I'm playing a 1977 Ludwig Vistalite kit that's not in the best shape, but it's still a classic kit. And as we're setting it up, I keep joking around that this riser is not big enough for my power. I got so much coming down, you know. And long story short, we're 2-3 songs into the show, and at first I lose my ride cymbal off the stage. And like, well, that made me frustrated. I guess I don't have the best coping mechanisms, at least back then. And instead of like being cautious, like, oh my God, I only used one cymbal. I had hi-hats, and my ride was my ride. It was a really basic setup. It was awesome. I still actually have a better version of it now. You know that.
Yeah.
Anyways, as I'm playing, I get so angry at what just happened that I start hitting my drums harder. And as I hit it harder, I lift my foot off the bass drum and thwack it, and the whole bass drum flies off the stage. It almost hits the rest of the band. It doesn't. Anyways, I end the show instantly. I don't pick it back up. I was embarrassed. I was frustrated. I was angry about my equipment being hurt, but I was the one that hurt my equipment. But I spent the next like 2 hours in the trailer crying, complaining. And that's like, anyways, that's my low point of drums. I think my biggest baby I ever was, it was that night. I get over it now. It'd be so much fun playing without a bass drum. Like, oh yeah, here we go, stand up, you know, like, oh, people are gonna, it's a funny situation. So for me, what kept me like my climb steady is number one. What did I want out of music? Well, I wanted to be in a band to record. Okay, man, that's awesome. Stimulate yourself. Do those things. And I wanted to be in a band to get signed. It's overrated, let me tell you. But what a great thing to do. You know, I want to go on tour. That's not overrated. That's amazing. To go out there and share your music with people and get that experience and see all that life and see that road. That was amazing. But those checkpoints, recording the Little Twins albums with Jason, like that's really important because like, oh yeah, let's write some more material. Oh, let's do this, you know, and let's release it so it's real. Give it a deadline, give it expectations. But what's really sustained me, other than I have a twin brother that I can never say is a better musician. Like we respect each other. It's always neck and neck. It is. And if you ever watch this, Jason, like everything I do to progress is it's out of respect and love to you. I don't want to be the twin left in the dust. So I always want to push. I'd rather him be in my dust than I be in his dust. But I all put it all on the backbone, the foundation of my musical career, which is I call the 4 pillars of music. And the 4 pillars of music are number one, what are you listening to? 2, what have you seen? Whether it's again now YouTube or live stream, or even out locally, there's still people performing. Or it's important. What have you seen? I love concerts, so I prefer that. Are you learning about it? Are you reading the history of your favorite artists? What were they into? What were their influences? Was it where they grew up? Was it a record that someone gave them? There's so much we could take from. And then most importantly, playing music. And if you're hitting all 4 in a single day, you're fulfilled. I can only imagine that you're fulfilled as a musician. But the best part about the 4 pillars are on the day that I can't play music, what am I listening to? Am I listening to the same old thing that I have been to? Is it poppy? And why am I listening to that? Am I listening, to Steely Dan, which is always a great throwback to? Like this morning, I was listening to Michael McDonald singing Motown. And, and it was beautiful. I love some of the arrangements, and it got my mind thinking about, some new connections, which is great. So then maybe, like, oh, no, but I watched this YouTube performance, or MarcBarc just sent me his new recording that he worked on, and so I'm getting new influence. We don't want to become stagnant. I love listening to all the different genres of rap music. Some of them really put a heavy focus on that beat. And I really, as a drummer, appreciate that. It doesn't matter if it's a fake drummer or not, like give me that nice, and do you hit that on the one, and sometimes they don't. Or sometimes, they take the bass away. It's what? Prince would take away he took the bass out of When the Doves Cry. There's no bass in Kiss. Like, it's mind-blowing that there are these iconic, exactly. When you think about it, like, what? There's no bass in Kiss? There's no bass in Kiss.
Huh.
It's amazing, and there's a reason why I go into it, but just the choices. And so all of a sudden, one song could actually make me grow as a musician. So even if I go a day or even a month without playing, I can progress as a musician because I'm not just putting in all my eggs in one basket. It's four different parts of the foundation that are keeping me nice and firm.
Yeah. I love the four pillars. It's such a like as a musician, I relate a lot to that because right now I haven't been playing as much guitar, but I've been trying to make sure that I'm listening to new things. Like that song you sent me the other day, Canned Heat or Canned Meat.
Oh, by Jamiroquai.
Yeah, that one's got so much going on. Every time I listen to it, I'm like trying to really pick out all the parts, and it's so interesting because there's so much going on.
But can you
That you,
see what I'm saying though? I'd rather be the bass player in that song than the drummer. That bass player's smiling that whole time. He's having so much fun.
okay, I'm gonna make a note. I'm gonna listen for the bass next time I listen to it.
You know, I'd rather be the drummer in just about every song, but not in that one.
Yeah.
Not in that one. I'd rather be the bass player or be the added percussionist that's not there yet.
All right. So moving on with the questions. I know you talked about learning the history of musicians or just learning different songs. Do you have a greatest drummer of all time? Or if there was somebody out there looking to learn from a couple drummers, is there maybe two or three you would tell them like, hey, check these guys out. These are your gods.
Okay, so when it comes to talking to other people about who they should listen to, it all depends on the music genre that you are playing. If you're into metal music, you know, I have an opinion. I love Danny Carey of Tool, but maybe it's that blast beat. There's a guy named Tim Young who has the fastest blast beat on the planet, and he plays in some great bands. And if you're into that type of music, it's really cool because you can see his choices of where is he. You can't just, all that flashiness doesn't pay off unless you put it in the right spot. You know, or like Mike Portnoy appears on Avenged Sevenfold. Oh my goodness, it is the best double bass drum album out there. That's not a Tool album, in my opinion. So it depends on the genre. You know, jazz drummers think a whole different way. But for me, there's one drummer that can do it all, and if I had to put all my money on it's the drummer by the name of Thomas Lang. Thomas Lang, he does clinics. He has put out instructional DVDs. I've actually he revolutionized my life. I saw him at a drum night, and you know I was front row, and even my wife and my twin brothers were right there next to me. And he did a whole demo on a Roland electronic kit, and he had a double kit set up, and it's a TD30, and it's a beautiful kit, and he could pull off patterns on his feet off 7 different pedals that I still to this day can't do with all my 4 limbs. And I'm pretty proud of what I can do on a drum set. The way he breaks down drums, the way he does his warm-ups, how he practices with purpose. He's as close to a cyborg on drums as I've ever heard. But he also will morph himself to whatever drummer he needs to be. If you've ever heard Kelly Clarkson's like mid 2000 hits or all over like our early stuff, especially even what she's doing now, he is her drummer. He drums on all these giant albums, but he's the chameleon because he can give you Mind Melting Metal. He can give you he was the Spice Girls drummer. If you want to be my lover, it is Thomas Lang on
That's
drums.
him?
It's him. And it's so cool because he does the stick tricks are over the top, but he's a drummer who understands it. He's patient. I mean, I've also had a lesson with him, and he can put up with me, so I'm a big fan. But also, there's other drummers out there. There's a drummer who changed my life, and his name is Jojo Mayer. Jojo Mayer he's a New York drummer, but Jojo does instructional work. And Jojo, years into my playing, I had to rechange my technique and my stick grip and how I played out with my feet. I had a knee injury, and I realized that I had never started my foundation the correct way. And so I actually redid my entire stick grip and my foot technique with both of his instructional DVDs. I think it's Hands for a Lifetime, I believe. I can't remember the exact name, but
Yeah.
it's incredible. Also, Tommy Igo, I did one of his hands for drumming, but playing drums for over 15, 20 years, and then all of a sudden doing a 180 and learning proper technique. It also changed my life. Now I can get 8 hits with one strike that I used to take 8 actual movements with my wrist or my elbow
Oh.
or my shoulder. And so it's that proper technique of how you get the true value of your instrument, and so I recommend them for that reason. There's so many drummers I could recommend for musical reasons and bands, but for me, selfishly, it's those clinics and those instructional DVDs that I found to be the most beneficial.
Okay, that's awesome. I
It's
like
not.
hearing that
It's,
the 8 hits in one.
Oh, but it's all about, if it changed my attitude. Like drumming is not about striking the drum. Drumming is about, and my kids are huge into basketball, but you're dribbling the stick at all times. If you found that equilibrium, it's because it's in your stick grip, and if you're doing it correctly, those sticks and gravity are doing most of the work, and you're just facilitating that work. And then if you choose to, you can get your wrist incorporated for volume or your elbow. But the why you're doing things is so important, because as a musician growing up, I just wanted to be in a rock and roll band that was signed, and I got to go meet people. Well, okay, yeah, I got there, but I don't have the right technique to sustain it or to reach my real goal, which is to be, I want to be satisfied. I want to play the most insane stuff and not think about it. I just want to turn my brain off and play music.
Nice. I want to keep the questions moving along.
Please.
So something that I see on YouTube all the time, I'll be looking up different artists, maybe how to learn how to play a song. Like before we got onto this Zoom call, I was learning how to play 10 Years Gone by Led Zeppelin.
And you sound great on it.
Thank you. I just started like 10 minutes ago. I still need to really practice it. But something I see in a lot of YouTube videos, and just in general when I talk to people, is some people have this belief with gear that you don't necessarily need the best gear to be the best musician. And then other people think you need really awesome gear to sound better. What's your opinion on gear, and how do you think it influences musicians?
All right, so I came from a family that didn't have much. My first drum kit, I sold all my possessions to achieve my first kit, and it was just in someone's garage, an old Rogers kit, no cymbals. So like all my money growing up, and I didn't believe in dating, even though I wasn't really allowed to date. I believed in gear. That was the real investment, was to buy gear. And and as a young kid, you're looking through a musician's friend catalog, which for like a 14-year-old is like, oh, and you go into used music stores and you see it, even the lowest line of Sabian, like a B8 ride cymbal, brand new, $149.99 or $180, and it's like, oh my God. And they say used stuff, like, oh yeah, I can do used stuff, and and then you start, and Craigslist didn't exist back then. When I was 16, 17 in that band, the Blue Jays, another musician worked at a music store, and they gave us a phone call because they knew I had a really junky drum kit, and they said, "Hey, we got a Ludwig Vista-like kit," and I did buy it, and even though it was old and beat up, it was a see-through drum kit that had this like vintage value to it, and that was my first like taste into like, oh, gear is value. Gear can hold. And then you go to especially you're playing shows, and you have a sound engineer, so you're getting mic'd, and if you have crappy gear, the sound engineer is going to say, oh yeah, you're playing that crate head or solid state. They may make a couple gripes at it. There's nothing wrong with crate or solid state heads, but when the night before someone had a Marshall Plexi here, like, it's going to sound different. And the musician world is interesting, because I find the community to be really, really, they get your back, and it's kind of this little bubble. Drummers are kind. The rest of the world can be kind of, the rest of the bubble can be kind of comparing. Oh, you got this, well, I got this, because it's our identity. Oh, this person's a Strat person. Oh, this guy plays SGs. and
Yeah.
and not saying it's all ego, but it's also like our gear defines who we are. Because if you have something that's generic, you're gonna probably have a generic sound. If you have a unique playing style, unique gear, and a unique sound coming out, oh my God, that's why Santana, his guitar, the way he plays the guitar, but his amps, I mean, the guy would have these giant stacks set up, and underneath or behind everything, this little tiny 10-inch amp with a little tube inside, a little preamp tube. And that was the amp that everyone heard. The rest was just for show. It was the little guy that was mic'd. Yeah.
Huh.
And so gear can, and you can have multiple sounds and multiple voices. Pedals are great, but what do you use those pedals for? And so then you're like, okay, well, I get, 3 pedals for, $80. Man, but I want to buy this one pedal for $280. So then it goes into what's your sound. And my twin, and I've sold my wife to this, so I believe it. But when you buy the higher end gear, there's usually going to be a market for it, especially if it's quality. You may not get your same value, but it will retain a pretty, good bubble of value. Whereas you buy a Squire, and you buy some, an Ibanez Tube Screamer, for $20 that's from the 90s, you're not going to get more than what you pay, but you're probably going to get a lot less, or find that there's no market for it. And the real market for things like that is giving it to a kid or giving it to someone who's up and coming, because that next level gear does hold. And I am a firm believer of that. But I'm a gear junkie and I'm a gearhead. But then let me tell you this: when I bought my first guitar, I got offers to play the school's guitar. I got offered to play my twin brother's guitar. He has a carbon. It's nice. It has a good, cute story to it. I love it. But then I wanted something for me. And so I went to the guitar center and said, no prices, not going to look. I'm going to play every guitar they have in that room. And I'm going to choose the best sounding one. And that's the one I'm going to decide if I can buy or not. And the one I decided that sounded the best by far. It's a Taylor. It's a Taylor edition that I don't know the edition. All I know is it's really, really nice.
I think it's a 210.
Yeah. It's not super duper expensive, but it's not cheap. But when I got it, it spoke to me. It sounded amazing. But I believe that when you have quality gear, you're going to want to spend time with it. When you have a guitar that you spent $1,000 on, you're going to name that guitar. And that guitar is going to be part of saying, if you get to leave an emergency and a fire is coming, that guitar is coming with you. My guitar is Miss Piggy. I love Miss Piggy. She has personality. She's loud. She's desirable. That's Miss Piggy. And I want to play Miss Piggy. I want to be around Miss Piggy. My electric guitar, I love it because of the name I gave it, because it's quality. Because if I don't play on it, why did I even buy it? And even if I have to sell it because I don't play on it, because why did I buy it? I can get my money back. It's like having gold. Who doesn't want gold?
It's like having a personal bank account of just assets and physical things that you can sell to. Mostly musicians have other musician friends too, which is nice because you've probably sold gear to your friends before.
Yeah, and if you believe in yourself and your skill and the time you're putting in it, why not invest it? If it's something where you will retain most value, it's like putting a deposit down, for an apartment. You're going to get that back if you don't use it. It's worth it. If you're an amazing pianist and you have a keyboard with no amp, go and get an amp. If you're someone who's like, hey, I want to play, this instrument, but I don't have an amp. Are you even playing the instrument? You want to make sure that you're putting those times in so you can justify when you make that purchase of, oh yeah, I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah. All great points. I agree with gear. Everything you've said about gear, I completely agree with.
Yeah, and
it is.
I would say also go vintage too. If you can go some vintage gear, and vintage like 90s and below, but good, like a good Marshall head, like you're gonna get that sound. I can go on and on, man. I go on and on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So a question I want to ask our buddy Wolf, he had some written down. I already asked you one of his questions, which was about the experiences with drumming and your highs and lows. Another one that Wolf wanted me to ask was, who's in your dream band? Like, if you got to assemble a dream band, who would be in it? Who would be the drums, the bass, the guitar, the singer, the
So,
keys?
all right. So I gotta be real with you because I thought about this one because you did ask this one the other day.
Hmm.
This one's hard because my main answer is still the main answer. I want to be with my loved ones. I want to play music. I want to travel and play music, but I want to do it with people that I just can't get enough of. People that when I see them on stage, they make me smile because I'm doing something that I love with them. So, like, my wife, my twin, obviously you, MarcBarc, Wolf, somebody else, Bobcat, and there's some other people that goes on. Even back in the past bands I've been with, there was a lot of joy shared between those people. But that always meant more. It meant more, and it was more fun. The collaboration was fun. But if I could start my own super group, I forgot him last time and put him in at the end. So I got to start off with Prince. I want Prince for his flamboyancy. I want Prince because he can really, I think, just up the showmanship in the whole band across the board. I also want Santana because Santana is where it is at. I was thinking about percussionist, and I really believe in Carlo Perazzo of Santana's group he's with right now. He's kind of the quarterback of the whole team. And I pretty much trust anyone to go in that with them. I also like Sheila E. from Prince, just because it's a woman who really just kicks some butt on percussion. As far as bass players, I'm sticking with Thundercat. If you haven't heard Thundercat, Thundercat is incredible, and he plays a 6-string bass. And I just think that would make my twin brother super jealous. So
It's a beautiful bass, that gold one.
Oh my God. I go on and on. But Thundercat makes it. Keyboards, I'm a big fan of Bernie Worrell. He played with P-Funk. He also played with the Talking Heads. So Bernie Worrell, they call him Dr. Wu. There's a lot of like freaky noises that he'll throw in and out. And I just can't get enough of those freaky noises. I'm a big sucker for jazz. So Miles, Coltrane, I would love that horn section. But the horny horns who play with the JBs and P-Funk, Fred Wesley, Maceo Parker, it doesn't get better than that. So then it goes lead singers. And honestly, I did say Marvin Gaye last time. I did say Aretha, and I believe in all of that. But as I was thinking about like power lead singers, and Freddie's great too, the lead singer that I think is the ultimate lead singer is Philip Bailey. Philip Bailey, for me, you only need Philip Bailey. Philip Bailey is the lead vocalist of Earth, Wind, and Fire. And he's also a drummer. But Philip Bailey can hit your high, he can hit your low. And oh my goodness, when that guy is grooving, like, to me, you can't beat soul. So Philip Bailey, he makes mine for sure. Rhythm guitar, I'm giving to my twin brother, Jason. Because I just wanted to have fun playing rhythm guitar. And so because I said that, I would actually put Thomas Lang on drums. And I just want to be a free roaming percussionist. I'll play some cowbell, I'll play some tambourine. But I just want to dance and pretty much just melt away to all the music. And if I had to play drums, I would in a heartbeat. But I think I just want to dance the entire time.
Okay.
But real fast. But then I thought about it for like realsy thought about it. And the music I respect the most is power 3-piece. A 3-piece band that can just attack, the way that like Cream did it back in the day, or even Zeppelin. So I say my dream band, this is my official dream band, is me on drums, my twin brother on bass, and to be the third twin, I'm picking Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page can mold lead and rhythm. Jimmy Page, me, and my brother, world domination. Now we need a lead singer, and that's where I come back to Philip Bailey or Michael McDonald. You get some of that soul. Anyways,
so you're saying a 3-piece is in like the 3 like guitar, drums, and bass, and then a 4th is a singer?
Well, and now as I say that, I love Jimmy. I'm kicking him out of the band, and I'm gonna put Prince into the band because Prince is a guitarist and a singer. Now I just,
Great at
kind of
both.
do like what Jimi Hendrix did, Band of Gypsies. He had Buddy Miles and Billy Cox, bass and drums, and they, just kept it going. Buddy sang some too, but Jimmy did all the stuff up front. That's all I need. That's all I need.
I love it. I do got to get going soon. I just have to leave for work later. Is there any last words you want to leave with the audience? Just anything in general about music, any words of advice as a musician?
So I do have a word of advice. I actually also ran into Wolf last night, and he said there was a question about the pocket. And I
Yeah.
really just wanted to emphasize as a musician that and not all pop music kind of kills off the pocket, and the more production loses the pocket. But when you play that, and I said this the last time too, there's value to being a musician in 2020. There's value into actually honing your craft and learning the guitar, learning the drums, and all those procedures. And there's so much value to playing with yourself and doing MIDI and doing your own recordings and getting fake drummers to come in to replace people like me. But the one thing that's really exciting is I believe that music has to work in cycles, and it's going to come back where there's no frontier of music other than to explore where we've been because we weren't there long enough. And there is a band called the Funk Brothers that record almost the entire Motown catalog. They would have to rehearse a song, and not only just rehearse it, but then perform it to record live. And the drummer had the wallet on the snare drum, and the sheet covering the floor tom, and they were put the furthest back. There was, the bass player, the three guitar players, but they're all strategically pointed around the microphone. There was someone's job who was just to be the tambourine. And to me, that type of interaction with music is the best part about music, and it's the most real part about music. And I do believe that it's always going to have value. So for anyone who's playing music, there is value to learning how to record. There is value to all the things that are available to us in 2020. But there is so much we can still go back to. We can still learn to keep progressing our individual sounds. So we don't just sound like a whole bunch of people that are out there, but we can really hone that sound that's us, that's our voice, and we can, package it any way we want. But I recommend go back. There's so
Yeah.
much still left.
I love that you say that because that's a piece of advice you gave me when I was a student naturalist and worked with you. Is you told me one of your favorite parts of music is going backwards because people like Jimmy Page, who'd play electric guitar with a violin bow, and you watch him slap his guitar with the violin bow, and you're like, "What? Somebody did that?" And then you watch them live, and you're just blown away with their musicianship. They are so crisp and so tight, and they sound so good. It's
And,
really made me go back.
and there's not auto tune. There's not in
Oh,
ear monitors. None of that exists. It's because they were practiced, and they were gelled. And again, there is a level of musicianship, and that's always going to be needed in music.
yeah. I thought of an analogy today. Maybe you'd be able to expand on this more. Is it's kind of interesting. Recording music is almost the way social media has become today with people's profiles. Like you put a version of yourself out on the internet that you want people to see, and that's kind of recording. I was listening to is an interview with Joe Satriani. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a guitarist, and he was saying how your recordings, that's your best take usually is the one that your audience listens to. And so one of the things I love about going back is some of those recordings aren't their best takes. Some of those recordings are just whatever they could get because of their technology. And it's so wild that some of the bands today aren't as good live as they are in their recordings.
Well, so I will. Oh, my phone decided to be weird. I will say this about that. It's amazing how like sometimes the best mess ups are just like, oh my god. But the Beatles recorded on what, a 4-track? Like what, the Beatles? Do you hear the layers in that music? It's definitely it's interesting, and how we, like, oh, I'm doing this single and I'm going to release it under this, and you know, and that's great. And I don't want to rain on anyone's parade putting out their music. But there's a quote, and it's my favorite quote ever. And it's the reason why my twin brother and I are so patient, because I still want to pursue being a professional musician. I mean, that's always the dream. But
Yeah.
you have your entire life to create your first album. And then after that, people are going to expect something. And I'm not saying you take your whole life to make one album, but if you're going to take it serious and say, this is my artist name, and this is who I am, like take that serious. Because once people hear that, they're going to expect something from you, whether it's going up or they think it went down, or they think you're still moving up. Being an artist is something that I think that it's kind of cheap these days. Anyone can do that. But to really succeed, you got to have that grit. You got to have that dream. And you got to, learn to, okay, I didn't do well that time. I'm going to try this. But I think taking ourselves serious is really important. Taking, everything we do is like, okay, this represents me. Boom.
Awesome. Everything you've said has been great. I appreciate you doing a second round of this. It means a lot. Yeah.
Of course, man. I love you. Thanks for having me. And
I love you too.
Thanks for being the musician that you are, man. You're always inspiring.
Appreciate that.